Hearthstone Grandmasters for the European region, and that's admirable. I'm joined by Darroch Brown, and we are headed into our fifth match of the day. It's hunterace, our reigning world champion, sitting at a 2-2 record currently, and he's taking on Seiko, who is 4-0 on his first time playing here this week. How are you doing, Darroch?
I'm doing fantastic. This is absolutely my personal match of the day, the one I'm looking forward to most of all. We've got hunterace, undeniably at this point, the champion of last year. Not only, obviously, that he was the world champion, I think he also played the best Hearthstone, had the overall best year with being #1 points earner, 2 tour stop victories, Hearthstone world champion as well. Up against Seiko, who just seems to be unbeatable at the moment. He's still to lose a game, I believe, here in Grandmasters at this point, or at the very least, to lose a series. He's doing unbelievably well, and I wonder if he's finally met his match in our world champion hunterace.
Well, I do think that Seiko has showcased some very impressive talent in terms of navigating a match of Hearthstone. It seems like he has done it with a keen sense of what the opponent's attempting to do as well. I feel like his hand reading has been spot on. I just feel like his aggressive game plans in general have been spot on. And that's exactly what we're looking at here as well. As we can take a look at the deck list, it is pretty much aggression through and through.
It definitely is. It's a little bit less aggressive of a rogue than some of the ones we've been seeing. And interestingly enough, he is playing what has been dubbed Water Rogue. It was dubbed that by his opponent, hunterace, who has invented this deck, I suppose, or at least teched it to include Sea Giants over the last week. A very recent addition to the deck, which some players have gone for. I think Pheno, Zalae, and Seiko are the main ones that pop into my mind. It could be pretty decent in this matchup against Mage, but I think it's not really the absolute optimum build of the deck, at least his primary.
Well, let's take a look at hunterace's deck and see what he stacked up against. It's pretty much the good old Cyclone Mage. This has been like, he almost went extinct this week, and honestly, you can talk to me about the secondary and tertiary deck afterwards because there's some wacky stuff going on. But how do you think this is going to fare here in this matchup? I mean, there's very little defense outside of just a Frostbolt teched in the main deck here.
Yeah, it's not an especially anti-aggressive list with obviously no Rabble Bouncers anywhere to be seen actually in his primary, secondary, or tertiary deck lists. I'm still personally of the opinion that I think Mage is pretty good against Rogue. I know that's very possibly because of the fact that the Rogues I have been playing against on ladder have not been especially proficient in the matchup. A lot of the players have been saying that they think Rogue is pretty good against Mage, which is why they're bringing it. Swids, for example, in that interview that we just had. But hunterace is so good at this deck as well that he is going to give Seiko absolutely no room for maneuverability or to make any mistakes.
What is the deal with Spellword Jeweler? I'm not making a Seinfeld joke here. That's in hunterace's secondary deck. What is going? He has 2 Spellword Jewelers, which is Battlecry. Your hero cannot be the target of hero powers and spells until the start of your next turn.
That is correct.
A Youthful Brewmaster, a Harrison Jones, and I know what the Ice Cream Peddler's doing in there. I mean, that's who hunterace wants to see the most, the Ice Cream Peddler in real life.
Somewhat an inside joke, I suppose, with hunterace. After pretty much every victory he had last year, he went and bought an ice cream and posted a picture of it on Twitter.
And almost after every loss he had last year, he went and bought an ice cream and posted a picture on Twitter.
Dude likes ice cream.
A lot.
He really does. Which is, I mean, the Ice Cream Peddler is also serving a secondary purpose, which I think is to counteract OTK Paladin. I think his entire secondary deck is pretty much exclusively to counter Holy Wrath Paladin, which
makes
is
a lot of sense.
The first time we've ever seen that. Obviously, Spellwood Jeweler, if you can play 2 of those, even with a Youthful Brewmaster for a 3rd turn, they're never hitting you in the face with their Holy Wrath Shavala combo.
It gives you time to Ice Cream Peddler after you Ray of Frost your own minion and get above that 25 health mark.
However, he is not up against Holy Wrath Paladin, as I interrupted you about to say the exact same thing, I imagine. He's up against a Rogue.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like when you build a secondary deck specifically for that, you've made a pretty big statement of where you think you stand against Rogue. Either you don't anticipate players bringing it, or you think you're good in the matchup.
Well, he's got a tertiary deck for Rogue, right? With the Ooze, Doomsayer, Halftime Scavenger, and Vexcrow.
Yeah, I won't argue much about how I think that performs against Rogue.
Well, you don't think that's a good anti-Rogue list?
It looks okay.
I think it looks pretty good, right?
He cuts a Frost Nova. We've seen Frost Nova be really good against Rogue.
I think you're more afraid of them just hitting you rather than freezing their board up too much. I mean, I guess against the Sea Giant versions, it can be a little bit scary, but I don't know. Swampoos and Doomsayer are pretty powerful cards. As within the minutiae of this early game, we can see while things have been a little bit slow, they are most certainly heating up. The Kobold Lackey into Edwin Van Cleef puts a very, very serious amount of pressure on the board for hunterace to answer.
Interesting turn here for hunterace, though. So Seiko right now, actually, if the board gets frozen, has no way to answer the Sorcerer's Apprentice. So
true.
In my head, the thing that I was eyeing exactly was Sorcerer's Apprentice, Frost Nova, Ray of Frost down, the Edwin to an unhealthy life total, and then maybe use a banana or two to play around backstab.
Ooh, I think that's expending quite a lot too much resources for my liking.
Well, your other option is to take a bunch of damage.
Right. Well, no. I'm saying that the Sorcerer's Apprentice Frost Nova play is very much worth considering. I would save the Ray of Frosts for following turns to refreeze the Edwin.
So the timing of when that happens is really one of the big paramount things. He needs to have better follow-up.
This is fine. I think as long as the Edwin gets frozen in some capacity on this turn, it's okay.
So again, the whole point is time it out better, figure out where your big swing turn is, actually swing the board. You don't need to answer it, you need to swing it.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, that's just a pretty good fundamental aspect of playing this mage deck is whatever you're going to do, it had better be spectacular.
That makes sense.
Like, you have to do awesome stuff with this deck for it to be able to keep up with the rogues who are just piling on pressure turn after turn. It's very good at doing spectacular stuff, but you still have to make sure you're moving towards it.
Yeah, it's also very difficult to do spectacular stuff. I have found this deck to, be easily one of the hardest decks that I've ever played.
I fully agree with that.
I love how we go to hunterace's turn, and as he begins to focus, the camera also focuses.
The Mountain Giant being picked up is very juicy indeed.
What to do?
You got to start being worried in hunterace's position, though. And I'm looking at the kicker factor from Seiko's side, where he just grabbed a mirror entity. So if that Mountain Giant does not hit play...
God, yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, even then, actually, so if we sequence out how these draws are looking, we could see... Okay, Ziliax on this turn. I think hunterace is leaning towards the same thing. Next turn, Giant Frost Nova, which freezes the board. There is very little removal in the deck for Seiko. He is not playing Sap, he is not playing Walk the Plank. There is little that could kill off the Giant with the Frost Nova that comes down. And turn after that, you go Sorcerer's Apprentice, double Conjurer's Calling, freeze some more stuff, bananas, just pop off.
And so that's really the thing for Seiko to think about is, if hunterace is playing Ziliax this turn, why? And to me, this looks like he wants to get past this turn without Seiko doing too much.
Yeah.
That tells me that kind of want a mirror entity.
I hope you like my invention.
The 2/1/1s, I feel like... Ooh. The 2/1/1s, I feel like, are not representing a ton here for Seiko, other than he has the Sea Giant in play.
Yeah.
That is a double-sided effect for hunterace as well. So I think he correctly
agrees.
identifies. Trade these off, no benefit to hunterace.
Because not only is the mirror entity a good secret here, could be a counterspell.
And look at hunterace.
He's scared.
Yeah, and he should be. This is very powerful for Seiko right now.
The weird thing is, though, if he knew it was mirror entity, I think he'd be relatively happy to just go Giant Frost Nova.
Yeah. I agree.
Because he gets an 8/8. So what? Seiko's board is already super threatening for hunterace.
So I guess then, if that's the case, he could play Mountain Giant. Mirror entity triggers. When it triggers, you have Frost Nova. If it's a counterspell, you get to play Sorcerer's Apprentice, throw a banana, and then throw a Ray of Frost.
Okay. Yeah. So playing Giant first is the way I like starting this turn, I think.
What to do?
But if it's Mirror Entity, would you rather give your opponent a Giant or a Sorcerer's Apprentice? So this checks for the Mirror Entity, but it also gives you the liberty of checking for the counterspell. You still get to freeze. And honestly, the deck from Seiko doesn't take advantage of Sorcerer's Apprentice the way that Rogue traditionally does.
Yeah. Hunterace still able to keep his hand lovely and full for the Giant Conjurer's Calling combo next turn.
This also sets up the ability to
Very interesting.
Archmage bananas. If you draw Mana Cyclone.
That's a good point, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah, I think the Sorcerer's Apprentice is pretty much always going to die. But I mean, the miracle that it doesn't, like you said, Antonidas is looking pretty strong.
I wonder.
Yeah, I think the goal for Hunterace this turn was to go, you know what, I need to check the secret, and at the same time, I don't want my Giant to get checked. So why risk it now?
Right, because
I think it's really smart. Still got plenty of life to work with.
Okay. I guess the fact as well, yeah. I don't know. I still was tempted to see the Mountain Giant come down first.
Okay.
Book of Spectres is insane in this deck. There's hardly any spells. That's mental.
There's 2 Backstep, 2 Shadow Step. There's 2 Waggle Picks. Everything else is a minion.
Well, Vendetta is.
Oh, I'm sorry, Vendetta. That's the one I missed.
And doesn't Book of Spectres draw minions? Or is it...
Draw 3 cards, discard all non-minions.
Non-minions. I wasn't sure if it was spells or non-minions. Oh, yeah, of course it discarded Jaina. Ooh. That's not a bad pickup at all. Hunterace now with a random card in a Seiko's hand. He is more afraid of Vendetta, which is, I think, why he'll definitely be tempted to go for Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling on this turn in order to make sure that the Giant cannot be killed off.
Sans bananas. Yeah, something I'm thinking about is if you decide to go with like a Frost Nova on the Giant, it dies to Vendetta and stuff that matters. So like Vendetta Waggle Pick.
Exactly, and that's why I'm afraid to just see Mountain Giant Frost Nova. If he throws in the... Okay, no. Actually, this is good because if he throws in the mirror image, it has to be exactly double Vendetta or a random mage spell, right? Because there's no eviscerates in the deck.
Yeah. Oh!
So if he goes with the banana, double Vendetta or Vendetta into Waggle Pick still doesn't do it.
Double Vendetta would do it because the attack from your hero power. But he's playing around Vendetta Waggle Pick.
Right.
At the same time, not using Mirror Image keeps the Sea Giant in Seiko's hand more often.
Ah, good point. Okay,
wow.
yeah. That's smart. That's really smart.
I don't know if this is going to work. But it's very impressive.
It's looking pretty good, right? He can take the value trade on the Edwin next turn, double Conjurer's Calling. Unless Seiko finds Deadly Shot off the Hench Clan Burglar.
Oh, why would you say that?
I've cursed
You know how casters work. Freezing Trap!
Can start a whole library of Spectres at this point.
Welcome to our library. We have 2 books.
Don't open them. They're full of ghosts, see?
That unlucky guy that came to the library. Of course you didn't draw any minions.
Now for Hunterace with, wow, the pickup of the Apprentice as well. This turn can be insane, right? He just has to be careful to not play into exactly Freezing Trap.
Hunter, but can you believe that though? Do you believe that that's true, or is this a bluff? This is a random Hunter secret from a Hench Clan burglar.
He's afraid of Snipe killing off the Apprentice. He's afraid of Rat Trap playing too many cards in the same turn. He's obviously afraid of Freezing Trap.
Freezing Trap's the one to be terrified of.
Right. And is it bad enough to the point where you don't kill the Edwin?
What to do?
If it bounces back to his hand, he will have 9 cards in hand, which is usually 4 up to 6 because of the +2.
Whoa! He calculates it and says, I think I have to do this, and that is not good for Hunterace. That is a disaster.
That is an absolute disaster.
And he's got to pop off.
He's got to do something real quick now if he wants to get back in this game. He's done it. Let's see what he gets. Whoa, that's not bad.
Well, I can tell you what is bad this turn.
Sea Giant backstab. That's a lot of damage that goes face.
It's
Good
a
Lord.
lot of stuff.
Psych, just play stuff, Psycho. Like, just get stuff on the board.
I mean, that's what he's doing. This turn's going quick.
Mountain Giant's still going to cost 7 on the following turn. It's unplayable with the Conjurer's Calling.
hunterace visibly upset.
And I think if he didn't attack and went for double Conjurer's Calling there, obviously I could see Seiko's hand. I think he was winning if he did that.
That's hard to calculate, though.
Obviously, if it was Rat Trap that summoned a 6/6, maybe that puts him behind. Oh. Yes, I agree. Damage, face, good. Life Drinker, and then do you even Shadow Step it just to guarantee yourself more burst damage?
He's killing everything.
Wow. He's playing around any kind of Conjurer's Calling Khadgar nonsense.
Look at the damage. He sets up enough, I think, to threaten.
Oh! That does allow Giant Conjurer's Calling on this turn.
It's 5, 6,
Oh,
ties up
it's
8
just
of his
not
mana.
good.
It's not enough.
If he hits Taunt, obviously it can be value traded. Sorry, if he hits Grave Horror, obviously it can be value traded by the Sea Giant. And if he doesn't, he dies.
I wonder.
My question mark is the attack versus the trap. I mean, I totally see why and
right.
how you make that attack.
What to do?
But I'm wondering...
I can't call it a mistake because maybe you need to kill the Edwin. I'm certain he's found a situation where he needs to kill the Edwin to win the game.
Right, well, he's thinking, if it's Rat Trap and I proc that and he has Vendetta or he has removal off of the Blink Box or removal off of the Hench Clan Burglar, then I'm in trouble. Oh, wait, he just played the spell off the Hench Clan Burglar.
It's just too wide of a range for something to happen. Like,
He's got to hit Frost Nova. Oh, that keeps him alive, I guess.
just keeps him alive a little bit better.
Yeah, okay.
Oh my. It's 17 damage.
Really blooming close to lethal.
So, Shadow Step, how does it provide lethal?
Yeah, I'm looking at Book of Spectres to find Leroy. Yeah. Oof.
Well, you don't even want those draws in Seiko's spot. You're
Right,
like,
I mean,
Dunzo.
it's still just bad though, right, to find that over 2 other minions.
Sure, but they're not in the way of minions anymore.
Fair enough, fair enough.
My perspective on it is that the purpose of the Book of Spectres is to dig for Leroy.
And it still did that pretty well.
Yep.
I agree.
Closer to Leroy.
So many options.
hunterace is still not out of this game, though. If he could, I don't know, stick an Archmage? Like, if he can find some way to kill off or even just freeze the Giant and the Edwin for a turn, like, maybe he can clear up the board.
So, for me, the important draws are going to be Frost Nova, Mana Cyclone.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's about it.
Because he is 100%
Yeah.
dead next turn, unless he pulls off a miracle.
Ray of Frost.
That's a pretty big top deck, actually. We can see Evocation, Giant, Snap Freeze, or Ray of Frost, sorry.
Ray of
And
Frost
then
Hero
Conjurer's
Power.
Calling.
So, I guess my perspective on this is I want to start limiting board pressure.
What's your think he doesn't play the Giant Conjurer's Calling on this turn?
Maybe not with the Conjurer's Calling, no.
He has to put up a taunt of some kind on this turn, right? With Waggle Pick attacking face, he just has to.
I wonder.
Be that through Mirror Image or Conjurer's Calling on the Giant is up for debate.
Maybe he doesn't play the Giant this turn.
It's something to consider.
You know, I'm looking at like Ray of Frost, Snap Freeze, and then Hero Power the Edwin. Just set the Ice Barrier.
He's setting up to get that little bit of extra survivability. And maybe with some very fortunate series of draws, if he can find himself a Khadgar, he can wrestle this game back.
Seiko actually can play around the Ice Barrier.
So he's effectively at 15 health here.
Well, not effectively with his hand. Seiko can just play around it. He just gets to SI, Shadow Step, Eviscerate.
He does, yeah.
This guy's toast.
Wow. Hunter Ace. That question mark of the trap. Again, I don't blame him.
This guy's toast.
But it
things have been
undeniably
different.
lost him the game. In
This particular game, it did.
Yeah.
But you got to think about the call overall. And is Seiko capable of bluffing a freezing trap in that spot? I very much think so.
Far be it from me to disagree with the arguably best player in the world, hunterace, but it did look in that situation, maybe I'm letting the fact that I know Seiko's hand get into my head too much, but it looks like if he just went for double Conjurer's Calling there without trading, he was in a very good spot no matter what the secret.
You could be right. You got to play around ranges too. You know, I'm certain he's thinking about Leroy Jenkins. Certain he's thinking about
Vendettas in particular, I think. Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that you have to think about there. And then also just if you secure that board and some of your stuff dies, do you win from that position?
Right.
Because
Are
you
you
still have
just
to follow
falling
up. On
You're
the turn.
falling behind on value then, right?
Yeah.
Which is also a real consideration.
Really tough. He managed to hang in there for quite a while, though, in a situation where it looked like he was not going to hang in there for quite a while. So pretty cool stuff. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to find out which decks they're moving on to, which it looks pretty obvious to me. A lot of removal versus a lot of stuff to defend. So game 2 is coming up in our 5th match of the day. Stay tuned.